Hello viewers, Super GT here. So this is the Daily Race C from last week, Interlagos 12 laps, and I'm a little bit late to this party owing to being ill since coming back from New York, but I jumped on this and it's actually a really interesting race. What we're watching here is my qualifying lap, so I only did 4 laps, not many, but I was happy with my qualifying lap, and driving the Mercedes, so the Mercedes winning the Manufacturers' Cup at the New York event. So, you know, Mercedes are on the up. They're a good manufacturer. But this was very much a fuel-saving and tyre-saving race with a mix of strategy as well. So it was actually a very interesting race. Now, you see a couple of times on this lap you do have to really make the most of the track limits, especially on the entry to the right hand of turn 6, I believe it, or turn 7. And then of course through the centre rest as well. Absolutely abuse the track limits. And come through here, a hint of a lift as we come through towards turn number 12 of the lap. Half a second up on our previous best, which is a 31.0. Nice exit onto the back straight, you can take plenty of curb. And then because I'm on for a good lap, I'm going to stick to the left hand side of the track just to save 0.001 or something. And there we go, 30.5 as we cross the line. It was actually marginally slow through the final sector, but it was a decent lap. So here we go then, let's have a decent race, hopefully. R4M Shadow GT has been unleashed. I was 2 tenths away from pole position, not bad for just 4 laps in qualifying, so I'll take that. So 12 laps to go as we cross the line here. The race has begun and is very much a German affair at the very front of the pack. So we've got the Audi R8 at the very front of the pack, and then we've got a couple of Mercedes here. I'm also driving the Mercedes, and then behind me we have the Porsche and many Porsches, Mercedes and Audis throughout the pack. So lots of German cars on offer, and it's that German efficiency which we're going to be looking for here, because of course, as we mentioned, there is the option in this race to go straight to the end without pitting. So in that sense we can hope to preserve our tyres throughout the race and of course save fuel. This is my first time doing this race, and I was doing it on a Sunday. Now as the week goes on, as this Italian goes really slow, I'm not sure what he was doing here, it was really kind of weird that he went that slow coming out of there. Lost a lot of time to the guys ahead. But typically Sunday is going to be the hardest day, you could argue, to do any race, because it's the last day in the week. Everyone's had more time to practice, everyone's had more time to get a qualifying lap in, so typically things are going to be more difficult as we come up the inside on the exit. So that Italian had a good start to the lap and then kind of just went AWOL halfway through. I'm not sure what was going on there, but I'm up the inside again, just checking that radar bottom right of the screen just to make sure he stays to the right hand side. I'm going to cover him off and then just put the car in the middle of the circuit, give him a car width on the outside. He tries to go around the outside judging by the radar, but it's just almost never going to happen unless I brake way too early. So up into third, still in the slipstream. Of course, let's not forget that the slipstream draft range, sucking range, has changed these days, up from 0.8 to about 1.2. So the Portuguese guy there going in for an attack at turn 4 and shoving the Audi wide, giving himself a 3-second penalty. And this is going to be a big theme of this race and Daily Race C in general, which is when there's fuel saving and tyre saving to be done, there's not much point in fighting with each other too much. You see, I was about a second behind. They start attacking each other and I'm immediately on the back of them. So they've just given me a massive chance. They've just helped me a lot. Plus now I'm firmly in the slipstream of both of them, and that's going to help me again to save fuel even more. So not the wisest decision to go for sort of a last ditch lunge into turn 4 when you're not really alongside at all. But that has helped me, as now the Spaniard getting a poor exit. I'm not sure how good that Audi R8 is in terms of fuel saving, but there is a mix of strategy throughout this race, so you can go into the pit lane of course, and it isn't too long of a pit lane, although the exit goes on for quite a long time, but you're not much slower than the cars out on the track. Looking for the outside, and just hoping that he kind of messed up his braking point, but he doesn't. So he just sweeps in back ahead and regains that second place. Now under attack from the Italian once again. There he is, right on our tail. So down here, the best thing to do in terms of defending, as he does look up the inside, I'm just going to stay in the slipstream of the Audi. That's going to help me gain a little bit of speed down this back straight, and then I eventually settle back into position. So the Portuguese guy there serving his 3-second penalty, moving down to 4th place. So up into 2nd, started 4th, and have slowly moved our way up. Now up into 2nd on the tail of the lead. I haven't really paid too much attention to the fuel, if I'm honest, but just short shifting slightly. My first lap I didn't really short shift at all because I didn't really know how much to gauge this race. I didn't know how much you had to fuel save, but then judging by our fuel, you do have to. Most certainly fuel save, you can't really just go full out on power. So once again, it's a calculation throughout the race of how much fuel you have to use. So, well, 12 laps divided to 100 by 12. You're looking at, well, about just over 8% per lap. So one of the ways I do it is after 3 laps, you need a quarter. 3 is a quarter of 12, so you need to have used a quarter of your fuel. So ideally by this point I should have 75%, but I've only got 71, so I'm about 4% lower than I need to be. So instead of going for the pass here, I'm going to go into a leaner setting and just back off the throttle and just try to save a bit of fuel. Now that is the wrong decision clearly, as this Italian just comes rudely in out of nowhere and sort of with a strong pushing overtake gets past into 2nd, gets himself a 0.5 second penalty. So this is the kind of the decision you have to make. Sometimes it is best just to go into the lead and just escape all of the people. It's very easy to get in with the wrong crowd as he makes himself go very wide through turn 4. I'm going to retake that position. So we're just losing time here. I was right on the tail of the Spaniard, and through just fighting too much, excessively, we've just opened up, or the Spaniard has opened up a 1 second gap now. So again, it kind of carries on that theme of trying to minimise the fighting as this Italian comes back through. And if you looked at the radar through that corner, it was kind of a snooker effect as he punted the Portuguese guy into me and then did the 2 of us. So he goes up into 2nd, and it's very much a case, as I just mentioned a few corners ago, you don't want to get involved with the wrong people on this game, especially on a race like this. In a 4-lap sprint race, it's sort of acceptable, or you're going to expect it a lot more, the fact that you're going to kind of be in an aggressive race. But on a fuel saving race where you need to save your tyres, you just don't really want this at all. This is the last thing you want to be doing, fighting excessively, using up your tyres, using up your fuel, and just battering each other around the track. Looking up the inside, mainly in many ways just to cover from the guy behind, so it's quite a tricky position to be in, of course, when you have someone right in front and someone right behind. Do you attack, do you defend? You kind of have to do a bit of both. So he's going to serve his 0.5 second penalty here, just tuck in as much as possible into that slipstream just to get as close as we can. The 0.5 second, you don't lose too much time, but we do just go through him and retake our 2nd place. Looking at the radar again, the Portuguese guy now coming in for an assault, getting very close to our rear end. And look at the gap the Spaniard has now pulled out. From all this fighting, the Spaniard has now opened up 2.2 second gap. So we really are just letting him off the hook here. As we come through here, I was actually quite late on the brakes and still getting tapped from the rear end. And I don't think these guys quite know that by slowing me down, by pushing me around, they're only slowing themselves down. So it's quite a silly way to drive. And again, another bit of contact through this corner. They kind of just need to back off slightly just to make sure that I'm not getting tapped in the rear end, so to speak. But we come through the final corner at the end of lap number 5, and it's going to be quite a tricky job now to keep them behind as we come down the back straight, or the main straight, up the hill onto the main straight here. By far the best overtaking opportunity on the lap. Such a long straight this, especially uphill as well. I'm going to cover the inside as we cross the line to begin the 6th lap of 12. On the brakes nice and late, and the Portuguese guy goes actually for a switchback overtake. I'm going to try around the outside, and it wasn't quite there maybe. There's a bit of contact as he comes through, and he's going to get himself a 3 second penalty for that. And it's really just gone from good to bad to worse as I go from 2nd now down to 5th place, 3.6 seconds away from the leader now. So these last few laps have really just been an absolute disaster of just trying to hold off these guys who really aren't intent on being nice about it. The Portuguese guy there just gives up completely, so gets himself that 3-second penalty and then just decides, actually, screw this, I'm out of here. So we gain a position from that at least, and it's one less person to worry about. Lots of concertina effect coming up here, a bit of a pinball going on through that corner as we all back up into each other. So a bit of disaster here, and again, see how much time we've lost in this group. 4.8 seconds to the Spaniard in the lead. We should be on his tail. We were on his tail about 2 laps ago, and all of a sudden all these guys just seem hell-bent on fighting excessively, and we've been well and truly tangled in the web. So halfway into the race now, we're going to see the strategies come out in play here. Who is going to go into the pit lane? The leader goes in 40%. These two guys go in. Okay, I was definitely intent on doing a no-stop. So this is going to be very interesting now. From here to the end of the race, I'm going to have the old tyres. I'm going to have to fuel save quite a lot. In fact, I need to check how much fuel I have. So we've just done half the race. I need 50% fuel remaining, ideally. As we head through the Centre S for the 7th time, checking the fuel, I've got 43%. So I'm a good 7% down on what I need. And that is actually quite a lot to have to save in this last half of the race, especially as I'm going to have people bearing down on me. So judging by the gaps on the map, I think the people who pitted didn't actually lose too much time, especially, let's not forget, the Spaniard who was in the lead was a good 5 or so seconds, about 5 seconds ahead when he went into the pit lane. So even if he loses 10 seconds, he's only going to be 5 seconds behind again, and with fresh tyres and the ability to go a bit heavier on the fuel, it's going to be tricky from here to the end to keep this lead. As good as it looks, given that those guys have pitted, we do have the attention now of a Porsche behind. The Porsche is very good on fuel. In fact, it turns out recently it's one of the better cars on fuel. A lot of these daily race Cs in Group 3, the Porsche has been the go-to car because of how good it is on fuel. Coming off the back straight then, main straight, I keep calling it the back straight, but it is the main straight. Is he going to go into the pit? I'm ready to defend coming into the first corner, but he actually pulls in. So that gives me a bit of breathing space here, and it's actually very nice because this whole race so far has been pretty much surrounded by people who aren't really going to settle into position. They're really kind of intent on overtaking and just getting to the front. So to have a bit of space is actually very nice. Crossing the line here, the gap was 2.3 at this point here at the beginning of lap number 9, so just under 4 laps to go at this point. Quite worryingly, the Spaniard who was in the lead is beginning to reel us in, and this is the situation then at the end of lap 10. I was going to say lap 2 then. 2 laps to go. In just a moment, we're going to be coming around this corner to cross the finish line. Just trying to break the toe here by taking a different line. The guy behind in the Nissan GTR, 0.8 behind, and that's well within the slipstream range now. The lap time is tumbling 1:34, or getting worse, should I say, not tumbling. Tumbling normally means it's getting better. So through the Centre S for the 11th time, just one more to go after this, and we are slowly being reeled in. It's kind of a horrible feeling, the inevitable gaining of the guys behind again, moving over just to try to break that toe. I could save myself half a tenth, maybe, or they'll lose half a tenth by not being in the slipstream, but it's not really going to do too much. Almost spin it on the exit of turn number 4, very easy to do. The AstroTurf is very lethal here. You just don't want to get your outside wheels on it, and it's even harder now that we are on very warm tyres. 11 laps old are these medium tyres, so they're beginning to die of death. The death process, rigor mortis, is almost creeping in as we enter the final and latter stages of the race. Only 3/4 of a second ahead of second place, who has slowly but surely reeled me in as we come up to the final lap. So with 1 lap to go, we have a no-stopping Nissan GTR on my tail. We also have the 1-stopping Spaniard in the Audi R8. So a mix of strategies which made this race very interesting. The Nissan with a squirm on the exit onto the back straight, onto the main straight, the back main straight. That's not going to be good for him as he loses a bit of speed. So the gap momentarily up to 0.85. You see how quickly that gap comes down though, down to 0.65. He's gained 2/10 on that straight alone, even with a bad exit. Into the first corner, and you can see here, almost slide out of control. And that just shows you when those rear tyres are going, you really do lose a lot of speed. You lose traction, basically. That's the main thing that you notice. So you have to be really gentle on the throttle. The more and more that those rear tyres get worn out, and the front tyres get worn out, the car doesn't brake as well, it doesn't turn in as well. So at this point here in the race, things are getting very difficult, especially with a hard charging Audi R8 on our tail, which is one of the quicker cars over 1 lap. We are 6 laps into his stint though, so his tyres are beginning to wear out as well. Of course, though, not as much as mine, which are 12 laps old now, or 11.5 laps old. So this is going to be very difficult. This is going to come down to slipstream on the main straight, I think. I just need to make sure that this final sector is good, because if he's right on my tail coming out of that final turn, then he's got every chance to get in the slipstream and overtake me before the finish line, because it is quite a long way from this final turn up to the finish line. So here we go then, coming in, just braking about 75 metres before the corner. Make sure we get as much exit curb as possible. You can use it a little bit of an unsettling as we come through there. I'm just trying to break that toe, and he's not quite following me as he should, so I'm going to the outside and he's not quite following me, and it's going to be just enough. We're going to come through to win the race. I run out of fuel about 100 metres before the line, but thankfully do just enough. Look at that, 0.2 seconds in the end, and we just finished the race shy of 18 minutes and 50 seconds. It definitely could have been done quicker, as we had quite an aggressive first half of that race. But ultimately, we survived the storm. We weathered the storm of the Portuguese guy, the Italian, and the Spaniard to win the race. Thank you so much for watching as always, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for the support on the channel as always, and I shall see you next time. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.